I woke up on the cold kitchen floor with my face pressed against the tile, and the last thing I remembered was my mother's hand reaching, not for me, but for my wallet. The monitor on my glucose meter was still flashing red, the numbers so low they barely registered. My head throbbed where it had hit the ground, and through blurred vision I could see my mother counting my money bill by bill while my sister Lena stepped over my body to get a soda from the refrigerator. That was the moment I realized that to them I was already dead. And maybe I had been for years. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more stories of survival and strength, and drop a comment below sharing your own experience or just letting me know you're listening. Your support means everything. But let me take you back to where it all began, because the road to that kitchen floor was paved with years of small cruelties that I had convinced myself were normal. 3 days earlier, I had woken up in what I can only describe as my own personal hell, though at the time I still called it home. The modest two-story house in suburban Connecticut looked picture-perfect from the outside with its white picket fence and well-maintained garden. Inside was a different story entirely. I opened my eyes to the familiar feeling of gnawing hunger and that telltale shakiness that meant my blood sugar was dropping dangerously low. The glucose monitor on my nightstand confirmed what my body already knew. I had not eaten anything substantial in over 24 hours. I opened my eyes to the familiar feeling of gnawing hunger and that telltale shakiness that meant my blood sugar was dropping dangerously low. In reality, it meant she had taken to locking away most of the food, claiming I was eating too much and wasting her money. Never mind that I was the one buying most of the groceries with my paycheck from the coffee shop where I worked part-time juggling shifts around my online college classes. Never mind that I had type 1 diabetes and required careful, regular meals to manage my condition. According to Sharon, I was ungrateful, lazy, and constantly taking advantage of her generosity. I dragged myself out of bed, my legs weak and trembling. The house was already buzzing with activity. I could hear Sharon's voice drifting up from downstairs, sharp and commanding as always. My stomach cramped with hunger, but I knew better than to complain. The last time I had mentioned feeling unwell, Sharon had launched into a 30-minute tirade about how I was always making excuses, always trying to get out of my responsibilities, always playing the victim. When I made it downstairs, Sharon was standing in the kitchen, her arms crossed over her chest, her expression one of thinly veiled disgust. She was a handsome woman in her early 50s, always impeccably dressed and made up even at 7 in the morning. She took pride in her appearance and the image she projected to the world. The church ladies thought she was wonderful. The neighbors considered her a pillar of the community. No one knew what happened behind closed doors. "Your sister is coming over today," she announced without preamble. "I expect this house to be spotless. I mean spotless, Taylor. I do not want to be embarrassed by your slovenly habits." I had not left any mess. I rarely did. I spent most of my time in my room trying to stay out of everyone's way. But I knew better than to argue. "Yes, ma'am," I said quietly, already mentally cataloging what needed to be done. I moved toward the refrigerator, hoping to grab something quick to eat before I started cleaning. I was shaking badly now, and I needed to get my blood sugar up before I passed out. Sharon stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "Where do you think you are going?" "I need to eat something. My sugar is low." She let out a harsh laugh. "Of course it is. It is always something with you, is not it? You think you can just waltz in here and help yourself to whatever you want? You think food is free?" "I buy the groceries," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "I just need something small. Some cereal or a granola bar." "You buy groceries." Sharon's voice rose, taking on that mocking tone I knew so well. "With what money?" "The money I give you a roof over your head with. The money you owe me for utilities, for internet, for every single thing I provide for you." My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. "I work. I pay for my share." "Your share? Your share does not even begin to cover what you cost me. Do you know how much it costs to feed someone who eats as much as you do? Someone with your condition." She said the word condition like it was something shameful, something I had chosen. I had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 13, and it had been a source of resentment for her ever since. The insulin was expensive, even with insurance. The test strips, the glucose monitors, the emergency glucagon kit, all of it added up. And Sharon never let me forget it. I managed to grab a box of cereal from the counter, my hands fumbling with the cardboard. "I just need a small bowl. Please." Sharon's hand shot out and snatched the box from my grasp. The sudden movement made me stumble backward. She held the box high above her head, then deliberately turned it upside down and poured the contents onto the floor. Cereal scattered across the kitchen tile in a cascade of wheat flakes and raisins. There, she said, her voice cold and flat. Now you can see exactly what you are worth. Nothing. You contribute nothing to this household. All you do is lie around, eat my food, and play sick whenever there is work to be done. You want breakfast. Clean this mess up first. Then maybe if you do a good enough job with the rest of the house, I will consider letting you have some toast. I stared at the cereal on the floor, then at my mother's face. There was no warmth there, no maternal concern, just cold satisfaction at having put me in my place. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her and ask her when she had stopped being my mother and started being my warden. But I was so tired. So tired. I got down on my hands and knees and started picking up cereal piece by piece. My vision was starting to blur at the edges, and I knew I did not have much time before things got really bad. But what choice did I have? This was my life. This had been my life for as long as I could remember. While I cleaned, Sharon stood over me, commenting on every missed piece, every spot I had not gotten quite right. It is amazing how someone can be so lazy and still manage to make such a mess, she said. Your sister would never let things get this bad. Lena has always been the responsible one. Lena, my older sister. 26 years old, working as a marketing consultant in Boston, and the golden child who could do no wrong in Sharon's eyes. Where I was perpetually failing, Lena was perpetually succeeding. Where I was a burden, Lena was a blessing. It had been this way our entire lives. I had spent my childhood trying to measure up, trying to earn even a fraction of the love and approval Sharon showered on Lena. I had long since given up. I had just finished cleaning up the cereal when I heard the front door open. Lena's voice rang out bright and cheerful. Mom, I am here. In here, darling. Sharon called back, her voice transformed suddenly, warm and welcoming in a way it never was with me. Lena swept into the kitchen like she owned the place designer purse on her shoulder, perfectly applied makeup, not a hair out of place. She was beautiful in that effortless way some people are, and she knew it. She barely glanced at me on the floor. Oh my God, Mom, this house looks amazing. You have been working so hard. Sharon beamed, soaking up the praise. Well, I do my best. You know how it is. She lowered her voice conspiratorially, but made sure I could still hear. I would have more help if certain people pulled their weight around here. Lena finally looked down at me, her nose wrinkling slightly. Taylor, why are you on the floor? I was cleaning, I said flatly, pushing myself to my feet. Lena finally looked down at me, her nose wrinkling slightly. Taylor, why are you on the floor? You look terrible, Lena said, but there was no real concern in her voice, just vague annoyance as if my appearance was inconvenient for her. I am fine, I lead. I just need to eat something. Sharon jumped in before I could move toward the pantry. She has been complaining all morning. Apparently cleaning the house is just too much for her. I swear, Lena, I do not know what I am going to do with her. Lena sighed dramatically. Well, some people just do not appreciate what they have. She moved past me to the refrigerator, pulling out ingredients for what looked like an elaborate brunch. Mom, I brought those pastries you love from that French bakery. Let me make us something nice. I watched as they began preparing food together, laughing and chatting as if I were not even there. My stomach cramped again, harder this time. The room was starting to tilt slightly, and I recognized the warning signs. I needed sugar, and I needed it soon. Mom, I really need to eat. I am not feeling well. Sharon did not even look at me. Then go rest. We will call you when we need you to clean up after us. That was not what I needed. I needed food. But I could see there was no point in arguing. We will call you when we need you to clean up after us. But as I took a step, Sharon's voice stopped me. Where are you going? I told you to clean the living room. Lena and I will be eating in there, and I will not have her sitting in a pigsty. I need to get my medication, I said. I was not lying. I did need to check my levels and possibly take insulin, depending on what the numbers said. You can do that after you clean. It will not kill you to wait an hour. But it might. That was the thing Sharon never seemed to understand, or more likely never cared to understand. Diabetes was not something you could just put off or ignore. It was a constant balancing act, and if you let things slide too far in either direction, the consequences could be severe. I made it to the living room and started straightening pillows, picking up magazines, running the vacuum. Every movement felt like I was pushing through mud. Sweat was beading on my forehead despite the cool temperature in the house. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely grip the vacuum handle. From the kitchen, I could hear Sharon and Lena talking and laughing. I caught snippets of their conversation. So, Mom, I have been thinking about that trip to Italy we talked about. Oh, darling, that would be wonderful. We should definitely do it. We deserve a vacation. We. They deserved a vacation. I could not remember the last time I had been included in any family plans. When I was younger, I used to beg to go on trips with them. I was always told there was not enough money, or it was not a good time, or I would not enjoy it anyway. But they went. They always went. And when they came back, they would show me pictures of all the places they had been, all the things they had done, all the fun I had missed out on. I pushed the vacuum across the living room floor, my vision growing darker at the edges. The machine felt impossibly heavy. My legs were shaking. I could feel my heart racing, that awful pounding that meant my body was struggling, fighting to keep itself functioning without the fuel it needed. I tried to call out, "Mom." My voice came out as barely a whisper. I cleared my throat and tried again. "Mom." Louder this time, but still weak. "I need help." No response from the kitchen. Just more laughter, more chatting. The vacuum cord was tangled around my feet. I tried to step over it, but my coordination was shot. My foot caught and I stumbled. I reached out to catch myself on the arm of the couch, but my hand slipped. The room spun violently, and then I was falling. I hit the floor hard. Not the carpeted living room floor, but I had somehow made it back to the kitchen doorway, and I went down on the tile, the same unforgiving tile I had been cleaning cereal off of earlier. My head cracked against the floor with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. Pain exploded behind my eyes, bright and sharp and all-consuming. I could not move. I could not speak. I could only lie there looking up at the ceiling, feeling my consciousness starting to slip away. Through the fog, I heard footsteps. Sharon's face appeared above me, looking down. For one brief, desperate moment, I thought she was going to help me. I thought she was going to call 911, or at least check to see if I was breathing. Instead, she knelt down beside me. But not to help. Her hand went not to my face to check my temperature, not to my wrist to check my pulse, but to my pocket where my phone had fallen out. And then I saw her reach for my wallet, which had also tumbled from my jeans. "Oh, look at this," she said, her voice almost cheerful. "I guess you will not be needing this right now." I watched, unable to do anything, as she opened my wallet and pulled out the cash I had inside. It was not much, maybe $80, my tip money from the coffee shop that I had been saving to buy more insulin. Sharon counted it slowly, deliberately, making sure I could see what she was doing. Well, she said. "This should just about cover what you owe me for utilities this month. I was going to ask you for it later, but since you are lying here playing sick again, I might as well take it now. If you are going to die, as you seem so intent on doing, you will not need it anyway." She stood up, pocketing my money. From somewhere behind her, I heard Lena's voice. "Mom, what happened? Is Taylor okay?" Lena appeared in my line of vision. She looked down at me with an expression that was more annoyed than concerned. "Oh God, is she doing this again? The whole dramatic fainting thing. She probably just wants attention." I tried to speak, to tell them I was really sick, that this was not an act, that I needed help. But no words would come. My tongue felt thick and useless in my mouth. Lena stepped over me, literally stepped over my body as if I were a piece of furniture in her way, and went to the refrigerator. She pulled out a can of soda and popped it open, the sound sharp and crisp in the silent kitchen. She took a long drink, looking down at me the whole time. "You know, Taylor, this is really pathetic. You could not even make it through one simple cleaning job without causing a scene." She shook her head and walked back toward the living room, taking her soda with her. "Just try not to make too much of a mess on the floor, okay? I do not want to have to clean up after you." I could hear them settling in the living room, their voices fading as they discussed their Italy trip. Meanwhile, I lay on the kitchen floor, my blood sugar crashing, my consciousness fading in and out, and neither of them cared. Neither of them cared at all. But I was not quite gone yet. Some part of me, some deep survival instinct, was still fighting. I had to stay conscious. I had to get help. But how? I could not reach my phone. I could not call for them again because they had already shown me they would not help. I was on my own. I had always been on my own. With enormous effort, I managed to roll onto my side. I was on my own. The movement sent waves of nausea through me, but I pushed through it. If I could just get to it, if I could just reach the honey I kept there for situations exactly like this. I started to pull myself across the floor. Inch by painful inch, using my elbows because my hands would not support me. It felt like miles, though it could not have been more than 10 feet. Every few seconds, I had to stop and rest my cheek pressed against the cool tile, trying to gather enough strength to move again. Finally, I reached the cabinet. My fingers scrabbled at the door, barely able to grip the handle. It swung open, and I could see the plastic bear-shaped bottle of honey sitting on the shelf. I grabbed it, nearly dropping it because my hands were shaking so badly, and managed to unscrew the cap. I did not bother with a spoon. I just tilted it up and let the honey pour into my mouth, swallowing as much as I could. The sweetness hit my tongue, and I kept drinking, kept swallowing, even though my stomach was rolling with nausea. I needed this. I needed the sugar to bring me back from the edge I was teetering on. Slowly, over the next several minutes, I felt the fog in my brain start to clear. The trembling in my hands began to ease. I could breathe without feeling like my chest was clamped in a vice. I was going to live. Not because of my mother, not because of my sister, but in spite of them. I sat there on the kitchen floor, my back against the cabinet honey bottle still clutched in my hand, and something inside me broke. But it was not the kind of breaking that meant shattering. It was the kind of breaking that meant cracking open, letting light in where there had only been darkness. They had let me lie there. They had let me nearly die. My mother had literally stepped over me to take my money, and my sister had stepped over me to get a soda. To them, I was worth less than the effort it would take to dial 3 numbers on a phone. And suddenly, with crystal clarity, I realized that this was never going to change. I could try harder, be better, sacrifice more, and it would never ever be enough. Because the problem was not me. The problem was them. I pulled myself to my feet, using the counter for support. My head still throbbed where I had hit it, and I was going to have a spectacular bruise, but I was standing. I was alive. And I was done. I looked toward the living room, where I could still hear Sharon and Lena chatting away, oblivious or uncaring about what had just happened. For years, I had made excuses for them. Sharon had a hard life. Lena was busy with her career. They did not mean to be cruel. They just did not understand. But they did understand. They understood perfectly. They understood that they could treat me however they wanted, and I would take it because I had nowhere else to go, because I was trapped by my own fear and guilt and desperate need for their approval. Well, no more. I walked slowly to my room and locked the door behind me. Then I pulled out my phone and started making a list. Not a mental list this time, but an actual list typed out in my notes app. What I needed to do. What I needed to gather. How I was going to get out. That night, after Sharon and Lena had gone to bed, still laughing over glasses of wine, I packed a small bag. I did not take much. Some clothes, my medication, my important document, my laptop. I left behind all the things that tied me to this place, to this life. The photos, the yearbooks, the little mementos I had saved thinking they meant something. They did not. They never had. I barely slept. I lay in bed, my heart pounding, going over the plan again and again. I was terrified. I barely slept. How was I supposed to make it on my own? I was 22 years old with a part-time job at a coffee shop, a chronic illness, and less than $500 in my bank account after my mother had taken my cash. The next morning, I woke early. My body still ached from the fall, but my mind was clear. But then I thought about lying on that kitchen floor, watching my mother count my money while I struggled to breathe, and I knew that no matter how hard it was going to be out there, it could not be worse than this. I got dressed, checked my blood sugar, took my insulin, and went downstairs. Sharon and Lena were already in the kitchen, enjoying another elaborate breakfast that I had not been invited to participate in. They looked up when I entered, and I saw the flash of annoyance on Sharon's face. She had probably expected me to stay in my room to be properly cowed after yesterday's incident. "I need my money back," I said. My voice was steady, calm. I barely recognized it as my own. Sharon's eyebrows rose. "Excuse me. The money you took from my wallet yesterday while I was unconscious on the floor. I need it back." Lena set down her coffee cup. "Oh, here we go. The drama continues." Sharon's expression hardened. "I did not take anything. I collected what you owed me for your share of the utilities. I did not owe you anything. I paid my utilities for this month. You took my money while I was having a medical emergency instead of calling for help." "A medical emergency," Sharon scoffed. "You were having one of your episodes. You are always having episodes. I am frankly tired of your constant need for attention. I could have died." "But you did not, did you?" Sharon said, waving her hand dismissively. "You are always fine. You always bounce back. You are just dramatic." I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and I saw clearly for the first time that there was no point in this conversation. She was never going to admit what she had done. She was never going to give me my money back. She was never going to change. "Fine," I said. "Keep the money. But I am leaving." Sharon laughed. "Leaving? Leaving to go where?" "Anywhere but here." "Oh, please," Lena chimed in. Where are you going to go, Taylor? You cannot take care of yourself. You have proven that time and time again. I walked past them to the refrigerator and pulled out the items I had bought with my own money. A box of granola bars, some string cheese, a few pieces of fruit. I put them in my bag. What do you think you are doing? Sharon demanded, standing up. You cannot just take food from this house. I paid for it. It is mine. Nothing in this house is yours. Sharon's voice was rising now, taking on that shrill quality it got when she was losing control. Everything you have I gave you. The clothes on your back, the roof over your head, everything. I turned to face her. You gave me nothing. You used me. You took my money, you took my time, you took my health, and you gave me nothing in return except contempt and cruelty. I am done. You ungrateful little brat. Sharon's face was red now, her hands clenched into fists. After everything I have done for you, I raised you. I fed you. I clothed you. You did the bare minimum required by law, and you resented every second of it. I paused, letting that sink in. You know what you did not do? You did not call 911 when I collapsed. You did not check to see if I was breathing. You did not help me. You took my money and walked away. What kind of mother does that? The kind of mother who is tired of your constant manipulation. You are always trying to make me feel guilty, always playing the victim. I am not playing anything. I am stating facts. You failed me as a mother. You failed me as a human being. And I am not going to let you fail me anymore. Lena stood up her chair, scraping loudly against the floor. You know what, Taylor? You are right. You should leave. We are all tired of dealing with you. Do you know how exhausting it is to have you around, always moping, always sick, always needing something? I looked at my sister, this person who shared my DNA but had never not once acted like family. Then I guess my leaving is good for both of us. Where are you going to go? Sharon asked again, and this time there was something different in her voice. Not concern exactly, but a kind of frantic energy. You do not have any money. You do not have any friends. You do not have anywhere to go. You will be back here within a week, begging me to take you in. I picked up my bag and slung it over my shoulder. Maybe I will. Maybe I will fail. Maybe I will end up homeless and desperate. But at least I will fail on my own terms. At least I will be free. Free. Sharon let out a harsh laugh. You think you will be free. You think you can just walk away from your family, from your responsibilities, and everything will be fine. You are going to realize very quickly that you need me. That you have always needed me. And when you come crawling back, and you will come crawling back, do not expect me to welcome you with open arms. I am not coming back, I said quietly. I walked to the front door, my hand on the knob, and then I turned back one more time. For my entire life, I tried to earn your love. I tried to be good enough to be worthy of basic human decency from you. And I realize now that nothing I did was ever going to be enough, because the problem is not me. The problem is you. You are broken, Mom. You are cruel and selfish and broken, and I am sorry for you. But I am done letting your brokenness break me. I opened the door and stepped outside. The morning air was crisp and cool, and it smelled like freedom. Behind me, I could hear Sharon shouting, but I did not turn around. I just kept walking. I had no idea where I was going. Behind me, I could hear Sharon shouting, but I did not turn around. I had not thought that far ahead. I walked until I reached the park a few blocks away, and then I sat down on a bench and let myself feel everything I had been holding in. The fear, the anger, the grief for the family I had always wanted but never had. I cried until there were no tears left, and then I just sat there empty but oddly peaceful. That was when I saw the police car pull up near the park entrance. Officer Miller stepped out, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He walked toward the bench where I was sitting, and I tensed, wondering if Sharon had called them, had reported me for something. Miss, are you okay? He asked, his voice gentle. I must have looked a sight with my puffy eyes and disheveled appearance. I am fine, I said automatically. He sat down on the bench next to me, but not too close, giving me space. You do not look fine, if you do not mind me saying. And then I do not know why, maybe because he was a stranger and it felt safe, maybe because I had nothing left to lose. I told him everything. I told him about the diabetes, about lying on the kitchen floor, about Sharon taking my money, about years of financial exploitation and emotional abuse. I showed him the bruise on my head where I had hit the floor. I showed him my glucose monitor with the dangerously low reading from yesterday still saved in its memory. Officer Miller listened to all of it without interrupting. When I finished, he pulled out a small notebook. Miss Taylor, what you are describing is financial exploitation and medical neglect. Both of these are forms of abuse. Have you thought about filing a report? I had not. I had not thought past getting out. I do not want to cause trouble, I said. You are not causing trouble. They cause trouble. You are trying to survive. He wrote something down and handed me a piece of paper. This is a list of resources. Shelters, community centers, support groups, legal aid. I want you to call some of these numbers today. He pointed to one address. Start with the community center. Ask for Mr. Henderson. He is good people and he will help you figure out your next steps. Thank you, I managed to say, my voice cracking. One more thing, Officer Miller said, standing up. What your mother did taking your money when you were incapacitated, that is theft. You can file a police report if you want to. You do not have to decide right now, but know that you have options. What your mother did taking your money when you were incapacitated, that is theft. I was not completely alone. There were people who helped people like me. I just had to be brave enough to ask. I was not completely alone. It was housed in an old brick building that had probably been a school once. The community center was a 20-minute walk from the park. Inside, it smelled like coffee and copy paper, and there was a bulletin board covered in flyers about job training programs and GED classes and support groups for everything from addiction recovery to domestic violence survivors. Henderson's office. He was a man in his 60s with silver hair and deep smile lines around his eyes. He invited me to sit down and asked if I wanted some water or coffee. I accepted the water, gratefully realizing I had not had anything to drink since yesterday. Officer Miller called ahead, Mr. Henderson said. Told me a bit about your situation. Why do not you start from the beginning and tell me what you need? So I told the story again, and with each telling it felt a little less raw, a little more like something that had happened to someone else. Mr. Henderson listened and took notes, and when I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Okay, he said. Here is what we are going to do. First, we are going to get you set up with temporary housing. We have a program for young adults transitioning out of abusive situations. It is not fancy, but it is safe, and it is free for the first month while you get on your feet. Second, we are going to connect you with legal aid. You need to establish financial independence, which means revoking any power of attorney your mother might have, removing her as a beneficiary on any accounts, and potentially filing for a restraining order if she tries to contact you. Third, we are going to get you enrolled in our job placement program and see about getting you more hours or a better paying position. Fourth, and this is important, we are going to get you connected with a therapist who specializes in family trauma. I nodded, overwhelmed but grateful. This is not going to be easy, Mr. Henderson continued. You are going to have moments where you doubt yourself, where you wonder if you made the right choice. Your mother is probably going to try to contact you to manipulate you into coming back. She might use guilt, she might use threats, she might even apologize and promise to change. But here is what I want you to remember. His eyes were serious and kind. You did not break your family. Your family was already broken. You just stopped pretending it was not. Those words hit me like a physical blow and fresh tears spilled down my cheeks. But these were different tears. These were relief. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Henderson made good on every promise. I moved into a small studio apartment that the community center subsidized. It was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a small kitchenette, but it was mine. I could eat when I was hungry. I could sleep without fear. I could breathe. I met with the legal aid attorney, a sharp woman named Miss Chen, who walked me through the process of establishing my independence. We filed paperwork to revoke the power of attorney Sharon had convinced me to sign when I was 18, claiming she needed it to help manage my medical decisions. We changed my emergency contacts, my beneficiaries, everything that tied me legally to my family. When I am done, Miss Chen said, your mother will have no legal claim to your finances, your medical decisions, or your life. You will be completely autonomous. I also filed a police report about the theft of my money. I did not expect anything to come of it, and honestly, the $80 was not the point. The point was establishing a record, creating a paper trail in case Sharon tried to claim I owed her money or tried to come after me legally. Sharon did try to contact me, of course. First, it was angry text messages. How dare you embarrass me like this? How dare you accuse me of abuse? I was a good mother. I sacrificed everything for you. Then came the guilt trips. I am so hurt by what you have done. I cannot believe my own daughter would betray me like this. Then the threats. You are going to regret this. You are going to fail without me. I give you 2 weeks before you come begging. I blocked her number. I blocked Lena's number. I blocked every avenue they had to reach me and told myself I was not going to look back. But it was hard. God, it was so hard. There were nights when I lay in my tiny apartment, my diabetes supplies spread out on the counter because I could not afford a proper medical organizer, and I wondered if Sharon was right. Maybe I could not make it on my own. Maybe I was broken and helpless and pathetic. But then I would remember lying on that kitchen floor, watching my mother take my money, and I would think even struggling to pay for insulin and eating ramen noodles for dinner, even this is better than that. I threw myself into work. The community center helped me get more hours at the coffee shop, and I picked up a second job doing data entry remotely. It was exhausting working 60 hours a week while managing my health, but it was my exhaustion, my choice, my life. I started therapy. At first I resisted. I did not see the point in talking about things that were over and done with. But my therapist, Dr. Rivers, was patient and persistent. Trauma does not just go away because you remove yourself from the traumatic situation, she explained. You have to process it, understand it, learn how to live with it without letting it control you. Slowly, over months of weekly sessions, I began to unpack the years of abuse. I began to see the patterns, the ways Sharon had systematically undermined my confidence, isolated me from potential support systems, and made me financially and emotionally dependent on her. I began to understand that the voice in my head telling me I was worthless, that I was a burden, that I deserved to be treated badly, that was not my voice. It was hers. And I could choose to stop listening to it. I also joined a support group for adult survivors of family abuse. Sitting in that circle of strangers who became friends, hearing their stories, realizing I was not alone, not crazy, not the problem that was transformative. These were people who understood. People who had been through their own versions of hell and had come out the other side. One woman in the group, Patricia, had been financially exploited by her adult children for years before finally cutting them off. Another, James, had been the scapegoat in his family, just like I had been. Listening to them, learning from their experiences, it helped me feel less alone. 6 months after I left, Sharon showed up at my apartment. I do not know how she found my address. I had been so careful to keep it private, but somehow she tracked me down. I came home from work one evening to find her sitting on the steps outside my building. When she saw me, she stood up, and for a moment I felt that old familiar fear, that instinct to shrink and apologize and do whatever she wanted to avoid conflict. But then I remembered. I did not have to be afraid anymore. She had no power over me unless I gave it to her. Taylor, she said, and her voice was soft, almost pleading. We need to talk. No, we do not. Please. I just want to talk. I have been so worried about you. You were not worried when I was unconscious on your kitchen floor. That was different. I was upset. You were being difficult. I was having a diabetic emergency and you robbed me instead of calling for help. Sharon's expression flickered and I saw anger flash in her eyes before she smoothed it away. I made a mistake, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I am sorry. I am sorry I was not there for you the way I should have been. It was the apology I had been waiting for my entire life. And it meant absolutely nothing. Thank you for saying that, I said carefully. But it does not change anything. What do you mean it does not change anything? He apologized. What more do you want from me? I do not want anything from you. I want you to leave me alone. Taylor, you are my daughter. You cannot just cut me out of your life like this. Family is family. Family does not let family nearly die on the kitchen floor. Family does not steal from family. Family does not spend years tearing you down and making you feel worthless. You were never family to me, Sharon. You are a captor. Her face hardened, the mask of the concerned mother falling away to reveal the cold woman underneath. You are going to regret this. You think you are doing so well now, but you are barely surviving. You are going to fail, and when you do not expect me to pick up the pieces. I am already doing better than I ever did under your roof, I said. And even if I was not, I would rather fail on my own than succeed as your victim. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to find a new angle, a new way to manipulate me. But I had learned all her tricks. I knew all her patterns. She had nothing left. Without another word, Sharon turned and walked away. I watched her go and I felt something inside me settle. I had stood up to her. I had held my ground. And the world had not ended. That night I took the old family photo I had been carrying in my wallet, the one last remnant of the family I had wished I had, and I tore it into pieces. It was symbolic and maybe a little dramatic, but it felt right. I was letting go of the fantasy and accepting the reality. My mother was never going to be the mother I needed. Lena was never going to be the sister I deserved. And that was okay. I did not need them. A year after I left, I was in a completely different place. I had saved enough money to move into a better apartment, one with actual space and good lighting. I had gotten a promotion at the coffee shop and had started taking online classes again, working toward my degree. My diabetes was better controlled because I could actually afford my medication and regular checkups. I had friends, real friends, who actually cared about me. I had a life. I still had hard days. Days when the old voices of doubt crept in, when I wondered if I was good enough, worthy enough, deserving enough. But I had learned to recognize those voices for what they were: echoes of abuse, not reflections of truth. I learned to set boundaries in all my relationships. I learned to recognize red flags. I learned that I did not have to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. I learned that putting myself first was not selfish, it was survival. And most importantly, I learned that I was stronger than I ever thought possible. The girl who had lain on that kitchen floor watching her mother take her money while she struggled to breathe, that girl had not died. She had survived. She had fought back. She had built a new life from nothing. I was not perfect. My life was not perfect. I still struggled sometimes with money, with health, with loneliness. But it was my struggle, my life, my choice. And that made all the difference. Sometimes people ask me if I regret leaving, if I miss my family, if I think about reconciling. The answer is no. I do not regret leaving. It saved my life. I do not miss them. I miss the idea of them, the family I wish they could have been, but I do not miss the reality of who they actually were. And as for reconciliation, that would require them to acknowledge what they did to genuinely change to become different people. And that is not going to happen. I have built a new family now. A chosen family of friends and mentors and support group members and kind strangers who became not so strange. They are the ones who show up when I need help. They are the ones who celebrate my victories and support me through my struggles. They are the ones who see me as a whole person, not just a burden or a disappointment or a source of income. Standing in my apartment now, looking at the life I have built, I feel something I never felt in my mother's house. I feel proud of myself. Not because I am perfect or because I have everything figured out, but because I survived. I escaped. I feel proud of myself. Not because I am perfect or because I have everything figured out, but because I survived. I escaped. You deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. You deserve to be loved without conditions. And if the people who are supposed to love you cannot give you that, then it is okay to walk away. It is okay to choose yourself. It is okay to save your own life. It will be hard. It will be scary. There will be moments when you doubt everything, when you wonder if you made the right choice. But I promise you, on the other side of that fear is freedom. And that freedom is worth fighting for. I am Taylor, and this is my story. It is not a story of revenge or justice or watching my abusers get what they deserved. It is a story of survival, of choosing myself, of learning that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. And I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you. Your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see it. You are not responsible for fixing people who broke you. You are only responsible for healing yourself. So here is my question for you. What would you do if you knew you deserved better? What would your life look like if you chose yourself first? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it gave you courage or hope, or just made you feel less alone, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of survival and strength. Because your story matters too. And you are not alone. Remember, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Fill yourself first. Choose yourself first. Save yourself first. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go write your own ending.